Hey, welcome to Apocalyptic Facts. Today, we are going to cover part 2 of the series, Heavenly Swords Grand Saga. I hope you enjoy it and stay tuned. Yoon goes on the offense all alone, without any companions beside him. Since he was on his own, the bandits targeted to drive him into a corner. He understood that even though they weren't that strong, it would be nuts to fight them all together. Only if he had fortified energy and manifested energy, it would have been easier for him to take them all down. Yoon gets one of the enemies, even though he wanted to save his spirit energy, so he could run away from them. Then, Yen decides to ambush the enemies, so he can get the upper hand in the fight. Meanwhile, guards in the front realize that some intruder attacked them, so they ran away from their post to see what is happening. The hostages took the chance of leaving the place when the guards left their duty to check up on the intruder. Yun's spirit energy was getting depleted, but he still needs to buy time for the hostages to run away. He gets attacked by a bunch of well-trained martial artists. Yoon gets hit by the leader of them, which takes a great toll on him, but he tries to act brave, so they get scared. That fails miserably, and the leader introduced himself as the chief of the 9 Dragons Fortress named Gwakesan. He praises the willpower and bravery of Yun. Wagwak was talking about recruiting Yun as a mountain bandit. He was sitting down on the ground recovering his internal energy. Once he regained enough energy, he stood up insulting the chief and proposed him a one-on-one fight. The chief commanded all his guys to attack Yun once, and in the fight, his face gets revealed. Yoon was having a hard time keeping up with all those attacks at once and gets down on the ground. Yin understood he underestimated all of them, so he gets on with using his 8 drunken immortal step to beat the minions of the chief in the end. Yun ends the fight by slashing the face of the chief and jumping down the cliff into the water. The chief gets even angrier when he realizes that all the hostages have escaped their grasp. He instructs all his men to search for Yun in every corner of Wangshan. On the other hand, Yoon gets out of a whirlpool in the water, and when he rises above, his heart and spirit energy react to the virgin ginseng. After looking everywhere, he locates the plant, and it looks like a child's hope gets regained by the thought that maybe this time everything will be different, and he will be able to save everyone from the grasp of evil. After eating the virgin ginseng, Yoon feels like he has regained his previous self and gets himself prepared to fight Guak. Meanwhile, Huang Chong was in Wangshan looking for his master and asking everyone he can. When he was sleeping back at home after getting drunk, he got kicked by Yun's father for his incompetence. The missing news of his son got him so frustrated that he became unconscious after reacting for a while. After looking for some time, Huang Chong was able to find the horse's master was riding. When he asked the boy looking after the horse, he directed him to Pagoda Peak. He ran for Pagoda Peak to find his master as fast as he could. When the hostages were running for the village, the old man Exu, who helped Yun go to the bandits' location, was there to assist them. The bandits, along with their vice chief, split into 2 groups to look for Yoon above the stream as they were ordered by the chief. All of a sudden, Yoon rose above from the water and noticed them. It looks like none of the bandits can recognize him anymore since Yoon's face has changed a lot after eating the fruit. He defeats all of them by cutting their heads down and changes into their clothes since his clothes were torn off. After looking at the waterfall, he notices that his face looks so handsome that he himself doesn't seem to believe it. Yoon notices that the old man who helped him last night was getting beaten by the bandits for helping him. He gets up the cliff and starts throwing snow at them and finishes it off by skiing and hitting them all. After seeing the condition of the old man, Yun gets mad and starts chopping off the chief's men one by one. He then starts transferring his internal energy into the old man's body so he can start recovering and stabilize over time. Yun releases the remaining men that were trapped with the old man and tells them to go all the way down slowly and carefully without looking down. Yun's anger on those bandits came down like a lightning strike in the winter. He ambushed the bandits who were on guard and started yelling for Chief Guak. Even though he was restricted from using his manifested energy, his spirit energy was on another level and was able to cut through and destroy anything in front of it. Yun started cutting up all the bandits into pieces one by one as they came in front of him. The bandits started throwing arrows at him, and the chief instructed them to surround him in long range. When the fight was about to get messier, Huang Chong came along with his whole army to save his master. When Chief Guak had no way to escape from the wrath of Yun, he begged for forgiveness. But Yun couldn't forgive him since he didn't do the same for hundreds of his victims. When Huang Chong sees Yun, he couldn't recognize him either because of the change in his face. He started talking so much that Yun started to get mad at him. After realizing his fault, Huang Chong said that he recognized his master right away. When Huang asked Yun to return home to his father, he he doesn't listen since he still has to finish off the Minion of Chaos to tie the master and get him home. Huang brought his special criminal catching ropes, but Yun wasn't going to hold back either. The Heavenly Squad was also amazed to see the fighting skills of Yun and wondered if he was always that skilled from the start. Huang used to be known as the slaughterer in the region, and even he is getting overpowered by Yun. Suddenly, the old man Iksu and his son came in the middle to let Yun know that they are thankful for his kindness. He praised Yun even more because he saved not only them but also several hundred people just after the departure of the old man and his son. Yun started feeling a little light-headed since he used up too much of his spirit energy and he was tied down by Huang Chang. When Yun was complaining too much about going home, he was put to sleep by Huang Chang, so he shuts up and relaxes. Huang forbids all the Heavenly Squad to discuss the topic of Yun finishing off the mountain bandits since drawing attention will only create more risks for his young master. Meanwhile, the people that were looking for virgin ginseng started getting mad since it wasn't found there. The captain of that strange squad ordered his minions to look for the one who ate the virgin ginseng and execute anyone related to the person. He also said that he will cut up the stomach of that person to retrieve the virgin ginseng. Yun was thinking about how he could have had the chance to finish off the Minion of Chaos if he came looking for the virgin ginseng, and he could have lived the rest of his life by being rich. But all of that was wasted by Huang Chang. On the other hand, the father of Yun was so anxious that he was on his way to unhew himself. Yun was thinking of how a second chance of meeting the Minion of Chaos will arise in front of the second mystical creature, the Milan Yam sea snail. Finally, all of them reached Fei, the capital of On Her Way, and it was Yun's first time visiting the place in his previous life. After the Hawaiian prefecture was burned down because of the chaos, the only places he has been to were the training grounds and spaces made by trap formations. When they reached the gate of Namgun clan, Yun was not allowed inside by the guards, and even his own father couldn't recognize him by seeing his face. So, he scolded Huang Chang instead. Even after taking a glance at his own son, he wasn't able to grasp the matter anyhow. Only after getting called by his son, he finally was able to recognize Yun. On the other hand, the Heavenly Squad captain told the truth about Yun finishing off the mountain bandits all alone to the Namgun clan heads. After hearing all that, they were going to handle the marriage proposals differently from then on. When someone asked Yun to take martial exams, Namgun clan's retired patriarch, Namgung Changs, wanted to train him instead so he can grow bigger and even save the country someday. After hearing that proposal, Yun was thinking that maybe getting backed by the Namgun clan will be a good choice after all, and he will have more opportunities within the Murum. At the same time, he will be away from the Upland for a while. Yun's father was relaxed after hearing the news and agreed with Chongsun himself. Yun prepared to go back to his mansion after getting reassured by the agreement of Chongsun, and bid farewell to his son Chong to follow him. After getting up on a higher ground, he explained to Yun how great of a choice it would be to get married to Hei, his granddaughter. Yun was surprised to hear that since all he expected from Chongsun was hardcore training for the future, Chongsun really wanted Yun to get married to Hei, and if he wanted more assets from the Namgun clan, he was prepared to give him everything. Even though Yun was trying his best to run away, it wasn't working at all, so he spoke his mind, saying that he didn't want to get married. When asked why he didn't want to get married, Yun said that he already had enough wealth and was more interested in martial arts than gaining wealth through marriage. Chong agreed with Yun, and finally, the training between them started. Because of old age, Chong was taking deep breaths after each and every small move, so he was unable to show anything at all to Yun. But for the sake of getting Yun married to his granddaughter, he was trying to impress him. When Yun showed his emperor sword style to Chongsun, he was astonished by the perfection, which enraged him. But Yun blew the fire out by telling more lies. Meanwhile, the soldiers of the strange captain came looking for Yun, but they didn't know his correct name. Since that incident was dumped by the name Jin Wigong, they couldn't point the finger at anyone directly. The master of Yun's previous life, Nam Gungsung, came to call him out for training in the early morning. But Yun didn't want to learn any more of the Namgun clan techniques. But the idea of training his master of the previous life as a disciple got him more excited than ever. Sun got mad at Yun, and after hearing that he wanted to train him from now on, he called American Song. He had never been so humiliated in his life and got mocked by Yun again and again, so he swore at him. In the previous life, Nam Gungsung used to be called the Seven Emotions Sword King for his skills of martial arts. Just while Yun was thinking of changing the personality of Sun, he was amazed by the heavenly footwork of Yun. Sung threw a punch at Yun, but he was overpowered and Yun blocked the hit with his own hands. Just after that, Yun threw an exploding lightning punch at Sung's face, which caused him to bleed and break stone walls. Even after that punch, Yoon didn't stop beating on Sung so he could make him like his previous life. Finally, Sung broke from his gentleman character of not swearing, and Yoon stopped only after Sung fainted on the ground. From the next day for 10 straight days, Yoon kept training Sung so he could get better before finding the second mystical creature. After that whole session of the 10th day, Sung finally felt like he was going to get a successful hit on Yoon, but he miserably failed in the mission of trying to trick him. Even though Sung thought that Yoon was going to take the chance of hitting him on the face, Yin invited him on a stroll instead. On the other hand, when they both were going outside together, it can be seen that the strange captain's soldiers and informants were dressed up as beggars or were looking for internal information. When the matter of Yoon came up, the chief soldier wanted to check it out himself without informing his captain. Since the authenticity of the news that came to them wasn't verified at all, they couldn't involve their captain in a matter like this, but they sent men to tail Yun anyway. Meanwhile, the soldier who was dressed up as a beggar was noticed by the genuine beggars of the territory since he wasn't paying any tax and was loitering around the Namgoon clan. The beggars were gathering the rest of their people to teach him a lesson. Yun and Sung went out looking for books with sad stories so Yun could teach him about one of the 7 emotions, grief. Then they went to the Peking Opera so they could laugh like crazy. After coming out of the opera, they were on their way, but the soldier dressed up as a beggar was still following them with his squad. The operation gets called off when the soldier is pointed out by the beggars in the territory for not paying taxes to them. The attention of Yu Yana and Namgung Sung is also drawn to them, and to hide his identity, Sung goes with them. The soldier is beaten up by the beggars but doesn't say a word. When Sung wants to stop them, Yoon tells him not to stick his nose into the matter of 2 sects since it's not their concern. Just after the departure of Sung and Yu Yan, the soldier gets up on his feet and brings his squad to chop off all the beggars that beat him. Only one of them was alive and able to hide away, who then ran away to let the beggars' sect know about the whole matter. Inside the Namgung household, Chomson is getting mad at his granddaughter for not caring about her own marriage and only caring about fighting with the unorthodox sect. Then Chomson finds another idea, which is to send Yu into the Orthodox Miriam Alliance. When Chomson was on a stroll out in the garden, he found out that Sung was practicing with Yun on the other side. Yun was training him about emotions and sorrow while educating him about martial arts. The old man was focusing on their training, and after noticing him, Yoon stops the training. He was surprised to see his grandson finally swearing. When Chomson asks Yoon about the new techniques of Sung, Yoon either lies about it or ignores it properly. He then started making up big lies about the 7 emotions sword being invented by Sung himself. Just while Chomson was being proud of his grandson for upgrading the generation, someone from the beggar sect came with the bad news. Namgung Sung went along with his grandfather to check up on the matter. Yu Yun decides to take a stroll outside, and the strange soldiers decided to go on after him. They were preparing to capture him so they can take him outside Hefei right away. Yu Yun notices that some people might be following him on his way and he gets careful. He even notices the one who got beaten up yesterday on his way with Namgung Sung. Yu Yun connects the beggar sect incident with a strange men incident and he realizes that they must be connected to each other. He then plays a trick on them by taking them somewhere secluded. Yin takes a guess that they might be the remnants of the 9-dragon stronghold, or maybe they are here to find the virgin ginseng. But since Yuyin wasn't looking like he was at the level of manifested energy or above, they were still double-checking the facts. When Yun realizes that they might be related to the Minion of Chaos, he doesn't want to let them go and let a chance get wasted. He knocks one of them out and throws him on a building. The situation gets serious when Yun confirms that he is the one they were looking for, and now not only the beggar sect, but also the Namgoon clan will join the bandwagon. They were rushing to leave Hefei, but facing Yun wasn't going to get any easier. They started killing off their own subordinates so they can erase traces of what happened in there. When they started fleeing altogether, Yoon started following them and knocking down the incoming enemies. Not only Yoon, but also the whole Namgoon clan was on their tail. When 2 of the remaining men were left, they started going separate ways to flee, but it didn't work. When the Namgoon clan started chasing one way, the leader of the strange squad, tribe blasting Yona Wave, got punched on the face instead. The leader wanted to kill Yun before taking his own life, but since he wasn't saying anything informative, Yoon decided to finish him off with one blow. He used the Shaolin's ultimate technique, 100-foot mystic fist, to give the man a lethal blow on the stomach. The man fell to the ground, and just at that moment, Hafe Beggar Sect branch leader, Baek-Cyan, arrives at that place. The Beggar Sect leader wants Yoon to hand the man over to the Beggar Sect, but Yun doesn't understand his demand at all. Thanks for watching part 2. If this video gets 1000 likes, I will know that you guys like the manhwa, and I will make part 3. See you in the next video, but until then, stay tuned for the next one. Peace.